Hello, welcome to the Attractions Group podcast. Today we've got a great episode for you. We're going to have a pick six, new segment, and then a great interview with Chuck Mingo from Undivided. How's it going? Welcome to the Attractions Group
It's
podcast.
happening.
David, how's it going today?
It's absolutely happening. I love it. And I see you are Clete, Cincinnati Reds fan, which is easy to do when they're on a 5-game winning streak. Now, obviously, by the time this post, we'll either be on a 6-game winning streak or we'll be having lost one. But still, I wish that I could say that they do better against the easy teams and beat the hard teams. But how do you go from you have a hard time defeating who they play last week? Was it the
The White
Astros or no?
Sox.
The White Sox. Yeah, the White Sox. Worst record in baseball, and they barely eke out a win there. Then you come back and you sweep the don't record this. Who they sweep? The Guardians.
Yes.
Then you
yes.
come back and sweep the Guardians. I
And
don't get it.
I read the White Sox had not won a series on the road since July of 2023. And then they came to Cincinnati.
Then they came to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do what we can to bolster the ego of other people.
Yes.
That's just in the Cincinnati DNA.
Of course. But much like last year, I remember last year we had that great series out in LA. And, the Dodger fans, Ellie De La Cruz comes up to play for his first at bat of the first game. They start doing this overrated chant. They were chanting like overrated. And he went 4 for 5 that game. He did. He went 4 for 5. So Ellie does not take lightly to being called overrated.
I don't think so. Yeah, and while we're talking about that, how about Will Benson? How good of a stretch has he had here recently?
Yeah, he's been on fire.
Yeah, not bad for a guy who didn't make the opening day roster. He's really making a statement now.
Yeah, I was worried. I think if he didn't make a statement right now, how much more time does he have in the majors, period? So I'm glad to see him go on a little, cool little run. And it all started Pete Rose night. He had like 3 just diving catches in the field. And I think he got some swag from it. I don't know. Maybe that's not how that works, but I feel like that gave him a little bit of confidence.
Yeah, and if nothing else, I'm sure people in Orlando really love the Cincinnati Reds talk. So, hey, what podcast are we on here? The Attraction Group. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Pete Rose for Hall of Fame, by the way.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Well, we do have a pick six today, so let's hop right into that. Get into theme parks. We do care about those too. So,
all right. Leading off with number 1, it's a small world. So, what do you do with a classic attraction back where it all started in Disneyland? Well, you do a redo of it. It's a Small World ride reopens with new additions. And to my knowledge, this comes from KTLA in Los Angeles. New ride. The It's a Small World ride is scheduled to reopen Tuesday with new additions following extended refurbishment. And it says that they are going to be including Spot Miguel and his trusted, I can't pronounce that, Dante from Pixar's Coco. So they're putting a little twist on it. And I hear there's a little bit of they changed one of the songs up, and there's a new scene in there that's going to include this. Now obviously you don't work for I'm sorry, you work for Disney, but you don't speak on their behalf. But you may have heard more information about this than the average person has. So what are your takes on this?
Well, I've heard mostly that it has Miguel and Dante in it from Coco, and Coco is literally my favorite movie in the world. So that's really all I've heard, but I'm so excited because I love. I'm hoping we get just a little bit of some Coco music to shine through.
Now, has there been any talk that this is going to be done in Orlando?
I have not heard anything like that. That'd be pretty cool. I'd be definitely happy with that because It's a Small World is a really high capacity ride that gets keeps its 10-minute wait and doesn't really go any higher unless it's New Year's Eve. So something to give it some extra juice. I'd be happy with that.
Now, extended refurbishment, though, to me, that means that they've done more than just add a little bit of elements of cocoa here and there. So, what other things are you aware of that they've added? Because the article with KTLA was really more of a, yeah, this is kind of a highlight of it, but if you really want to experience, go. So, has
I
there been
think a
anything
lot of
else up there?
Yeah, I think a lot of the things were just like strictly mechanical things, like kind of backstage things that you won't notice as much, but
Hmm.
should like increase capacity and reliability, and maybe even the way that the boats stack in the station. So I'm not totally sure about like the experience differences, what they'll look like, but I am reasonably certain that the ride will just be run really reliably for the foreseeable future because that's why you do it.
Yeah.
Pick six number two, we have Paulton's Park. Now, Paulton's Park is in the United Kingdom, and they have just announced a whole new land, and it is not a small upgrade. We are talking about new flat rides, new roller coasters. There's a rendering of it. It kind of looks like it's a dueling coaster, but maybe it's just, you know, a track that's kind of an out and back sort of thing. When we talked about the announcement, the official announcement of Universal Studios Great Britain, we said like there's going to be some extra competition from all the parks because they're
Hmm.
all looking for that dollar now with
Hmm.
Universal.
All the
And that's
international. Yep.
yeah, and I think we are starting to see that right here with Paulton's Park. I mean, that's not a name you hear about spending lots of money on investments, but I am happy to hear it now.
All right. Are we ready for number three? We're
Let's
ready for
do it.
number three. Coming from WGN TV, of all places, Channel 9 in Chicago, they have some updates for Siren's Curse up in Cedar Point, which is taking its first test runs. There's been leaked video of, well, I guess it's not really leaked when people in the park are taking it and putting it on their YouTube. I guess it's not really leaked at that point. But Siren's Curse is testing. I've looked through the article. I can't really see where they have established an opening date, but the fact that they are doing the test runs is very encouraging. And here in the article does say that the station and maintenance bay is about 80% completed. So that doesn't sound like Memorial Day, but I don't believe there is a date set on here.
Yeah,
But
I
this
don't
is fine.
know. I haven't heard any dates either. If I was guessing, just like as a betting man, which I'm not, but if I
Mhm.
was, June 22nd.
Ooh, June
That
22nd.
there's my guess. I don't know. Pretty random
Now,
guess.
now for the people on FanDuel, what day of the week is June 22nd?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I guess does make or break my answer. So June 22nd is a Sunday. So maybe June
Okay.
21st.
Okay. Well, what's the
Maybe
over under on that?
oh, over under a week on either side is what I would take.
Wow, you've given yourself a lot of grace.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm guessing in the dark, so I'll take it. I'll take the grace.
All right.
So Royal Caribbean has announced a new, we're going to call it a park, and it is Perfect Day Mexico. So they do these like islands, right? All cruise lines, well, a lot of cruise lines have these big islands where you go, it's all included in your cruise cost and everything like that. But this is the first time we're seeing a park like this because the islands, they're half beach, half water park type things. This one is just on land. It's just in Mexico. So cool, very interesting, very intriguing. It will have the tallest water slide in the Americas. So that's pretty impressive, and it will be available for, people on Royal Caribbean cruises. Now, the thing I'm a little curious about is when you're on an island, the only way to get to it is a boat or you can't, drive there.
Hmm.
Will this park be available if you just wanted to pay a day ticket, pay
Hmm.
for a ticket and go from, drive from over from Cancun and go to this park? Will that be an option? I don't know. We'll have to wait and
Do they
see
have
because
ferry
this is,
access?
yeah, I don't know. These are good questions. But
Hmm.
right now, all we know is tallest water slide in North America or in the Americas, period. So that is an incredibly impressive stat for Royal Caribbean to boast in their new water park.
All right. And here we go with pick six, number five. Universal has dropped their virtual line queue for what's it called? The Battle of the Ministries. Was this something that was expected, or this just happened to come out of just come up?
Well, they've received a lot of feedback about the virtual line.
I get that, and that's in the article that came up that they received a lot of negative feedback. But at the same time, if a virtual queue is the way you want to go, just because you have negative feedback doesn't mean you drop it. That means you work with it and you set it back up and try to see trial and error what works.
Yeah,
But they
I,
could have planned this.
the park right now is still in technical rehearsals, right? So we don't know if them dropping it for the last like 3 days or 2 days, whatever it's been, will stay for Thursday. If like on opening day when everyone's there and the park's officially open, will there be a virtual line or not? That's no one knows. I mean, Universal might not know.
Hmm.
Um, because the virtual line had I mean, I was trying to get a phone charger. My day at Epic Universe, I didn't have one, and I was at one of their many guest services concierge cupcakes, like, those little round buildings. But which, by the way, many they had incredible, incredible guest service team, and like legitimately for the 15 minutes I was there trying to figure out a phone charger situation, there were probably 40 people that came up and we're like, "Hey, I didn't get the virtual line. Hey, I can't believe it. I
Hmm.
spent all this money and I didn't get the virtual line." And that is unfortunate. That I get why, if you're Universal guest service, all you're hearing all day is like, "We didn't get the virtual line. We didn't get the virtual line." I'm sure that's very
Yeah,
frustrating. But also, yeah, I'm with you. Like the virtual line is there for a reason. The ride had
sounds
a
like a software glitch.
Right. The ride had a 300-minute wait when they dropped it
Ugh,
in technical rehearsals. It's not even opening day yet. So I don't even want to imagine what it would be like on Thursday, Friday, Saturday of this week if
wow.
I don't know. I don't know. I think it's a tough situation to be in. I don't know. Also, like, is the ride just low capacity? I don't know. I genuinely that's just a question. Why is like I get it, it's a great ride. Everyone's gonna want to experience it, but really? Like
Hmm.
5.5 hours want to experience it? I guess. I mean, I can't believe that yeah, I don't know.
For context, how long was the line wait for Hagrid's when it was opened?
Yeah, well, Hagrid's opening day did get I mean, I think the longest I heard was like 9 hours for Hagrid's.
Yeah. Now,
So,
if you're going to Universal, and for what it's worth, this is not a commercial for them, but if you've never heard of the Orlando Informer, look them up. Best deal. It does cost a little bit to go there, but they go after hours. I never waited longer than 45 minutes for Hagrid's, but most of the stuff is walk on, and it's outside of the Florida heat and humidity of the day and into the evening. And the admission price you pay for that is includes food and drink
and
and all the butterbeer you can consume.
you can genuinely do everything. If you do the
You
2-day
can,
Orlando Informer, it's not like you don't get day admission. You only get admission for like the event and then a few hours before. But that
yeah.
doesn't that you can easily ride everything and experience all the lands and so forth. Like it's an amazing event for sure.
And there's a good chance you might bump into Mama Miller, which, if you know, you know. If you've been there, you know who she is. So that's just a shout out to the Orlando Informer. But
Yes, great, great institution there. So, speaking of Orlando and informing people, I'm going to inform you now about two new Disney shows. So you might have saw this already. On May 27th, two new shows will be opening up both at Disney's Hollywood Studios. So that's pretty amazing. We have
mm-hmm,
right in the like Hollywood Studios, that's technically what the area of the park is called, but I know that's not descriptive. Near like Star Wars Launch Bay or yeah, Star Wars Launch Bay and near the Disney Junior meet and greets right across from there. There's going to be a new Ariel and the Little Mermaid musical adventure, which is going to be so delightful, I'm sure. And then, if you remember where the Cars show used to be back behind
mm-hmm.
Rock and Roller Coaster, back there we're going to see Disney villains unfairly ever after. So I'm sure that'll be cool and get people excited for Magic Kingdom's, eventual way down the line villains land.
So, but Has there been established a closing date for the Rock and Roller Coaster before its
I have
refurbishment?
not heard it, a rock anything like that at all. So
Okay,
I
because
think it'll be this year, but I've not heard any dates.
yeah, and the Muppets 3D is scheduled to close here shortly, isn't it?
Yeah, that one, honestly, I should look it up. It might be closed. It was sometime, I think,
Oh,
in May that it was closing. So
okay.
let's go to our friend Google. June
Okay.
7th.
June 7th.
June 7th. So that's coming right up. Not quite yet.
Yeah,
I thought it was May. June 7th. So
I'm sure the video that plays for that will live on in the infamy of YouTube. I'm sure it'll stay there.
oh,
I'm still very curious of how they're going to retheme the Rock and Roller Coaster into a Muppets theme.
I have no
I'm
idea.
still I can't wait to see the artist rendition of that come out.
I mean, it's Disney. They'll crush it, but
It is.
I'm horrified to know what if that was me that had to do that project, I might give up. I really might. So we have a bit of a new segment for you today, a little bit similar to the rants we did a few weeks ago, but we just wanted to talk about a couple things in the theme park industry that really bother us. So David, what you got for us?
What? Well, I want to hear what grinds you first.
Okay, all right, and I've mentioned this before, but I will mention it again because this is how strongly I believe this. If you are a theme park, it is your duty to change your park. I mean,
Okay.
it's a catalog. That's what a park is. A park is a place to be entertained, and it's a place to be entertained for not only people that are there for the first time, but also even in some ways more so for your loyal clients that come back 15 times a year, year after year after year. And if I'm those people, I get it. I'm going to have rides that I love. I am. But the park, in some ways, ought to know what's best for me as the guest and know that even if I love a ride, it should be changed. And I may have used this example before, but my favorite example of a park doing this correctly, and this is a controversial one because people hate this, but is Hollywood Studios removing the Great Movie Ride. Everyone loves the Great Movie Ride. Everyone loved the Great Movie Ride. It's the Great Movie Ride. But the park said, you know what, we're going to remove this, even though we know people love it, because we're going to. Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is going to have 500 riders per hour, better
Mhm.
capacity. It's going to be a new experience for people. It's going to be based on an IP that's Mickey Mouse and thus iconic, but also based on all these new short films that kids of today love. Not that there's anything wrong with the Great Movie Ride, but it didn't have an IP that was that universal. It had a lot of different IPs that were all great and people loved, and it was a great long ride experience. There's nothing. It's a great ride. That's why it's so impressive to me that they had the guts to remove it, because that's what a park is and dare I say ought to be. It kills me. It kills me every time you go into a park, and I get it. Like parks, money. There's a lot of things, and I get it. And yes, it would be better if parks could just add new rides and not have to remove old ones. But
Mhm.
maintenance costs, so on and so forth. But and land, of course, for many parks. Nonetheless, I stick by my claim that like even if all you can do is like what Efteling did this year, change one scene on one of your dark rides, or retheme the Backlot stunt coaster to the Queen City stunt coaster, things of that nature are
Mhm.
tremendous and are to me kind of what makes a theme park a theme park. That's pretty dang important
Yeah.
if you ask me. But that's something that bothers me.
Don't hold back, Clete. How do you really feel?
Yes, right, right.
Well, things that theme parks do that grind me. It takes on a little bit of a different take and going to more of the operational side. Now, I've been I would call it on the vendor side of the attractions industry for 12 to 15 years, somewhere in that neighborhood. I've been an IAPA member for at least 6 or 7 of those years, and have been involved in my share of proposals, writing proposals, creating quotes, sending them out, working with clients. I've done it as a point person. I've been in it as a operational person or as a support or just putting things together, putting the solution design together, give someone else to go out and get the information. And one of the things I got to say bothers me, and it's not sour grapes for me because I've been removed from this a number of years, but I've been in conversations with people at recent networking events where the same sentiment comes out, and like, oh, so I wasn't the only one that dealt with this. Let me just start with, everyone loves delivering good news. Everyone, get that phone call or that email to somebody that, hey, your company or you, whatever that may be, you won this project. No one really likes to deliver the bad news. And more often than not, the bad news either comes in a very non-personal email, or it doesn't come at all. That's been my experience, and the people I talk to at different networking events, that's been their experiences as well. And I just want to talk to people that put those RFPs out or requests for quotes out to other organizations, just to, not as a chastisement, but just as a speaking from the other side of the desk for a moment, if I can, that when Park A, B, C, Park XYZ, whatever you want to call it, puts out a proposal, they want to have an upgrade to a certain area of the park, or they want to make an addition over here, or a technology change, or whatever it may be, and they put that out to 5 or 6 companies, knowing that only one's going to get it. The other 4 companies may be working with not just themselves, but a team of people or teams of people representing different companies that have vested time and effort into this. And I know that and this has been a number of years ago, I was a cog in the wheel of 5 companies working on a proposal. And I'm going to say we spent the better part of probably 60 days putting this together. And for some of the people on the team, that's about the only thing they were working on, trying to get this. And I got to say, the person at the park on the other side went AWOL, and only found out at a convention a couple of years ago who actually won the thing. And the person is a point person. Is supposed to be the key communique between all the different people who bid on this. And never got with the people, never sent an email, never sent a phone call, never responded to phone calls. So this is just and I know we have people that listen to our podcast or download it that are fans of parks. They go to parks, and there's some people that are at operational level. If that's you, if you like delivering the good news to the people who won the project, goodness, be able to deliver the bad news also. Because a lot of the people that you're going to work with, they've been in the game for years. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. And yeah, they might be disappointed they didn't get the project. Might even ask you the tough question of what could we have done differently. But at the same time, it's good to put closure on something and not have something hanging out there that you're never going to get back for months. So that's my
Yeah.
rant, and I'll go from there.
No, that's a fair one though, and at a much smaller scale, I will admit this is a much less important thing. But
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of had the same experience with hiring. I mean, I've applied to 15 theme park jobs in my life or something like that, and probably just never heard anything back. Not a yes, not a
Mm-hmm.
no, not a we're going to schedule it. No, literally just nothing on 10 of them. That's just how
Mm-hmm.
it goes. I don't know why, and I do just like as soon as tell me. I
Yeah.
don't, it's fine. I don't. It's fine. I don't expect to get every job I apply for.
AI has made things a lot easier from an operational standpoint in weeding people out. I get that, but it's also turned it into a very impersonal process.
Yeah,
It's become more like, do you have the right keywords, key phrases, or does this mention, or it's really taken the human element out of it, and I think probably weeded out a lot of bad candidates, but at the same time, you could be weeding out some good people that just didn't want to spend $1,000 on someone to write the resume for them.
yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, Clete, enough of the ranting. I guess there's a number of different things we could rant on, and we could do a different series each week of things that really grind us about the attractions industry. But we'll pivot away from that and get to our guest. We have another guest today I'm excited about. This is a person who is based here in Cincinnati. He is co-founder and CEO of an organization called Undivided. And without anything else, we'll bring him on and let him explain who he is and what Undivided does. Here is Chuck Mingo.
Hey, David and Clete, thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for
Clete, thank
being
you,
here. We're
Clete.
very happy to have you.
Yeah, Chuck, thanks for coming on.
Indeed,
Now,
indeed.
now, Chuck, as we do the introductions, before you get too far along, and I want to make note of this because every once in a while you get people on here that have, or we get people on here that may be famous in their own right, or they're well known in other places. Now, Cleet, correct me if I'm wrong, and I think I'm right on this. Chuck might be the first person we've had on that has been featured in a commercial. Roll the YouTube.
Coffee. There's just something about it that brings comfort, warmth, belonging. One of the most expensive coffees in the world is Kopi Luwak, a specialty coffee from Indonesia. And what makes this coffee so special, you ask? Kopi Luwak is a coffee that consists of partially digested coffee cherries, which have been eaten and defecated by the Asian palm civet. The cherries are fermented as they pass through the Asian weasel's intestines, and after being defecated with other fecal matter, they are carefully harvested, collected, and roasted, and turned into the amazing coffee we're serving you this weekend at Crossroads.
Oh man!
All right. Now, full disclosure, Clete, we passed that by your sister. I said, don't tell him about it if he doesn't want.
That's
If
right.
you
But
don't
she
think he'll
did
go
not.
with it. All right. Now, with that as a backdrop, Chuck, who is Chuck Mingo?
Yes. Well, apparently I drink coffee that has feces in it. But other than that, I am a husband, been married to my wife, Maria, for 23 years. I'm a dad and I love being a dad. So I've got three kids, a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old son and an 11-year-old daughter. And this is maybe more apropos to the audience. I am a huge, huge lover of amusement parks and all things amusements. Like I am. So part of my story is when I was a kid, I was afraid of roller coasters. I was scared to ride them. And probably 12 or 13, my uncle finally got me onto a coaster. And now I feel like I have to catch up. And so I love, love, love going to amusement parks. I love particularly, and I don't know if we want to name drop, you guys can edit this out if you need to, but Disney, Universal, going with my family, all the immersive experiences there. I'm that guy. I was telling you guys in the pre-conversation that one of my desires in retirement would be to be a ticket taker at the Magic Kingdom at Disney World and just watch kids experience it for the first time. Like, is there anything better than the wonder on a kid's face when they experience Disney for the first time? So, yeah, that's a little bit about me. I also care deeply about people and really believe, like Mother Teresa said, that my vocation is love. And that comes out for me in the work that I do at a church that I'm a part of. And it also comes out for me in what we're going to probably talk a little bit more about today, an organization that I helped found called Undivided.
Yeah, so let's go into that. So what I don't know what to get this out of order. Maybe we just go in the conversation, see how it goes. But what is Undivided, and what caused you to think about this is a need that needs to be addressed to start this? And you can answer that in whatever order you want.
Yeah, Undivided is a movement for racial healing, solidarity, and justice, and really, it's a movement rooted in a challenging fact that is just true. I think we all experience it all the time, and that is that our nation is very fractured, and it's fractured along a lot of lines. And yet, there's a history of our country being fractured along racial lines, and that has all kinds of implications to society and people and our culture. And sadly, even places like churches have not necessarily always lived into what true unity can look like. And so Undivided really birthed out of a desire to create a space, what we would call a brave space, where people can hear stories that are different from theirs, walk in the shoes of people who have different lived experiences, learn skills around how you share your story and engage. How do you see a big picture of how we got to where we are, and also have a hopeful heart for the future being different than what it is today. And then how do you put that to work? We actually have teams across the country that have come out of Undivided and are kind of living expressions of doing racial healing and justice work, whether that's addressing housing and challenges with the unhoused, or whether that's providing and advocating for a broader and universal preschool opportunity for every kid in the community. And so these are things that really have birthed out of Undivided. So that's what we would say. It's a movement for racial healing, solidarity, and justice, where people are getting to live out their faith in the public square and do things that not just bring people together, but actually uplift an entire community.
Super cool. So with Undivided, does Undivided work with primarily communities, primarily churches and organizations of that like, or is it a lot of work in the corporate space with various companies?
Yeah, so we've, Undivided has been around for 10 years, been around now 5 years as a separate nonprofit. And we started out really, and our basis still is primarily working with churches. So we work with churches or organizations who have faith as a common core and helping them kind of go through this 7 week experience. So the core of what we do is a 7 week, 2 hour a week experience where people are in mixed race groups and having this powerful experience. And then on the other side of that, we're helping those partners walk into what we would call the undivided way, which we talk about these four postures. One is having open hands to believe that this work that we do, even though it's hard, is a gift to be a part of. We talk about linked arms in solidarity and relationship with each other. We talk about hopeful hearts, believing that the future can be different, and bold steps, actually doing action to make a difference. And so that's primarily where we've worked. We have done work in the past with corporations and other organizations, and that work has been really fruitful as well. And at some point, we imagine that work will come back into the fold of Undivided. Right now, we're kind of in a phase of reimagining the work that we do in the church space, and that's been taking up a lot of our focus, rightfully so. So we're building out that effort right now, and some encouraging things are happening on that front.
Cool.
So, Chuck, in your background, on the our good friend called LinkedIn, you started your career at Procter and Gamble before
That's
going on
right.
to Crossroads here in Cincinnati, and just
That's
curious because to co-found whatever the word is, an organization like this that does this kind of work, was there instances that you saw in corporate America that you felt needed to be, that could be addressed better than it would have been before, versus was there something that just was there a specific instance that came out that because I want to get to why I felt this is a good conversation for the attractions
Yeah.
industry, because they're very large organizations that have a lot of different background people come in. Some people work in these corporate structures for years, some for 3 months during the summer. And I can see this as a big tug of war between a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different belief systems,
Yeah.
and something that'd be very relevant for this industry. But was there something that you saw in corporate America or in your neighborhood or wherever it may be that would cause you to go back and think, okay, something needs to be done here?
Yeah. I mean, when I think about the impetus for Undivided, I'll answer that question in two ways. One is just to talk about what I saw at Procter and Gamble that I think really inspired me around the importance of this work. And then I'll talk about maybe the moment where there was a
Okay.
pain point where I felt like I needed to step in and do something. So, P&G, like most companies, have had efforts around diversity and really trying to have a workforce that reflects the diversity of the community they serve. And I think P&G has, what I would say is Procter & Gamble is a company that really lived into that value. It wasn't just lip service. And I was really thankful for the sets of experiences that I had at Procter & Gamble around this. I think about one, it was a weekend experience we did where you would go in with a team, and the whole idea was to take people out of the work environment, put them in a different environment where they could actually learn to relate to each other at a personal level. And this was people across different functions. This was people across different skill sets. This is people across different races. And I was so moved by that experience that I went on to be a facilitator of that experience within Procter and Gamble because it was so profound. And so I would say one of the things that I learned at P&G was that you could create experiences, immersive experiences that help people really understand the stories of the people
Mm-hmm.
they work with. And that when you do that, the outcome is almost always going to be up and to the right for the business. Like it has a real impact that I feel like I'm known and trusted, and I know and trust the people that I work with. And so I think that was an idea that I had. And then I come to Crossroads where, different, obviously very different career, become a
Mm-hmm.
pastor. But Crossroads too was as a church. And David, you may recall some of these. We do these things called journeys. And a journey
Mm-hmm.
is a 6-week focused area, whether we're talking about identity, or maybe we're talking about relationships, or maybe we're talking about how do you overcome difficulties in your life, where again, people have a big experience on the weekends, but then they get into groups. They're doing
Mm-hmm.
personal work in the guide, and they're doing some self-reflection. And again, we just saw these as accelerators of people's growth and transformation. So I would say those two experiences, although they were in very different contexts, one in corporate and one in a church setting, I know was kind of part of what inspired the vision that, hey, we can do this when it comes to one of the hardest topics for us to
Mm-hmm.
talk about as people, which is
Yeah.
race and racism in America. And in 2015, that became more than just a notion for me. Our church did one of those journeys, and it was the Brave journey. And so everyone in the church was kind of identifying, where is the place where you feel like you're called to make a brave next step? And it was at that point that I really had a personal conviction while I was doing some of that individual work and reflecting on what that meant for me, where I had a personal conviction to be a voice for racial healing and justice, and to think about what that might look like in our church. And then about 3 months later, 5 miles from where I pastor, near the University of Cincinnati, there was an African American man that was pulled over for not having a front license plate. And that interaction with an officer from the University of Cincinnati ended up with that officer fatally shooting that unarmed motorist. And so for me, that was a moment of clarity where it was no longer just the problem out there in our nation, but it was, this is my community. This is 5 miles from where I pastor. This is 6 miles from where I live. How are we as a community going to respond to this flashpoint that could easily have driven people apart? But was there an opportunity to bring people together? And, some of that is really the impetus for building the undivided experience, is to believe that, not that these things, I mean, obviously none of us would want these things to happen, but, they're going to happen. But what does it look like if there's a community of people who are committed to say, we're going to stand in solidarity with each other? We're going to learn how to navigate life together, and not just navigate life together, but demand and actually help affect systems that are unjust and unfair, so that there can be deep change and flourishing for everyone in our community. And so that's really the heart behind Undivided. And I have to say this, I'm just so thankful for the team of people that came around that, because this is not one person's idea. And there's just an amazing team of people, many whom I still get to work with today, who really helped to shape this Undivided experience.
In a lot of the experiences in the backgrounds and the communities and the companies that you work with, I bet you get all types that come in there. People that obviously the leaders who bring you in, who recognize either proactively or in reaction to, we need to do something, to people that come in. I can imagine there's some people that are anticipating, looking forward to it, all the way down to the people that are eye rolling, like, oh, here we go. So how do you overcome some of those? Because
Yeah,
I'm sure in all the settings that you're in, whether it's in a church or in a corporate setting, you get all types that come in. And
totally.
as I don't know if you're consider yourself a keynote speaker or one of the leaders or facilitators, you get to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great question, David. And I think, what I would say is, we have learned that the best posture for someone to come in with is, I'm opting in to being here. So we actually take a counter. Maybe it's counter to what some of folks may even experience. I do think there are certain experiences that everybody should have in an organization, and hey, if you work here,
Mm-hmm.
this is important. We're all
Right.
going to go through this training. We actually say to people, don't do that with Undivided, but start with the willing. Start with people who say, I want to be in the room. Now, that doesn't mean everybody in the room agrees the same things, sees it the same way, but they're at least saying, I'm willing to invest. And what we found is, if you start with the willing, who are willing to invest, wrestle together, and then on the other side come out with, hey, here's what this means for us and for our organization, those folks then can turn around and authentically invite others in the organization to join in the next round, or join in the next conversation, or join in what's coming out of the undivided conversation in their particular workplace. And so that's actually our encouragement to people, as we say, hey, there are people who are already passionate about this, and there are people who may not be 100% passionate, but they're willing to engage. They're willing to learn. They have a
Mm-hmm.
perspective they want to bring. Start with that group of people and then grow from there.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I think what David was saying earlier about, the sort of nature of parks is
Mm-hmm.
really true, and in like ways that I think could dramatically benefit from services and
Mhm.
events such as this. You have it oftentimes. Let's Cincinnati locals here. Think about Kings Island,
Yes.
a place with
Yes.
5,000 employees every summer
Hmm.
and less than 1,000 year-round employees. So every year there are 4,000 people who are coming together who maybe have never met. Maybe a couple of them remember each other from last year, and now there's a interesting dynamic about the returners knowing each other and the new people knowing each
Mm.
other, and those two groups not knowing each other at all because they haven't had a reason to connect because they've been in their own little circles. Well, now they have to together ensure that there's no loose articles that are going to fly off of the Diamondback and
Yes.
hit somebody in the midway, and that's not something that they can do with friction between them. You can't. It's
That's
not
exactly
possible.
right. That's exactly right.
And there's now 40 hours of this every week,
Hmm.
and you are working in the heat and you're getting tired of doing the same restraint checking every day. It's not easy to keep
Mm.
a team, even a small team of people in coming together like this in any workforce, but I think especially
Hmm.
in attractions, motivated and together. And I think anything that can push people in that direction is obviously
Yeah.
tremendously helpful. As you said, it's up and to the right is the direction things are
Yes.
going to go because that is and always is the power of togetherness in people.
Yeah. Yeah. You're so right. And Clete, I mean, think about it. We all, if we're on a team, we all want to feel like people want me on the team.
Yeah.
People know me
Mm-hmm.
on the team. I have a role
Yep.
on the team, and that's what you're talking about. Is how do you reduce the friction and the questions of whether that's true for people, so that they can do their best, so they can operate as a team. Because I mean, if you think about it from a bottom line perspective, the greater the experience is of being on that team, the greater the experience is going to be for the people in the park, right?
Yep.
I mean, we've all seen it.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on. I was telling you, I'm a roller coaster enthusiast, and there are some rides where the crew was obviously clicking, relationally connected, and I felt like I was
Mm-hmm.
being brought into their experience of team in that moment. Whether it's hey, high five on the way out of the park, or hey, how was that? Everybody yell, and those things don't happen when there's friction on a team. Those things happen when there's a team operating smoothly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Chuck, when you get brought into an organization, do you find a lot of organizations are proactive, or do you get them on the reactive side?
Yeah, the good thing is I think a lot of organizations are proactive. And I mean,
Okay.
context being what it is right now, a lot of this kind of work is under scrutiny, right? Like there are people who are saying, you know, DEI is now being demonized as a term, and and your listeners may have different points of view on that. Some probably are like, yeah, I agree. I don't think it's been helpful, and others might be like, no, I think this is helpful. Wherever you land on that, I think organizations understand that culture matters, people matter, and relationships matter. And I think every organization is just trying to figure out in this moment, how do we preserve the kind of culture we want where different people can come together and do great work. And so I think a lot of times when we come in, it is proactive. That's
Mm-hmm.
not to say that in every case it's been proactive. There are certainly times where we've been doing work and there's been pain, and that pain has surfaced a need for something like Undivided. And I think for us, we consider it a real honor whenever we get to walk alongside an organization and the mission that they have and the people that they have to hopefully strengthen what they're doing. Because we work with people whose work matters, and that's true whether you're in a church or an amusement park, or if you're running a small family business. Work matters. There's dignity in work,
Mm-hmm.
and there's dignity in serving others in the work that you do. And so, yeah, that's how we think about it. Is it's an opportunity to partner with work that matters.
Well,
That's
Chuck, I have
awesome.
an opinion, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know you. I kind of know your background, and I've seen you speak
Mm-hmm.
on stage a number of times. But part of the problem that you mentioned just a minute ago, where there's some people that the work has been demonized or has come under scrutiny, I think was the word you used, has
Mm-hmm.
literally been because I think at some point, and there's a good time and a place for government to do good things. I think a lot of times when government gets involved, they mess up more things, they break more things than they fix. But they
Mm-hmm.
started doing grant money, sending out for people to do trainings. And I think people who really had no heart for the work started developing these things to grasp at the grant money. I was at a networking event a number of months ago where they said they hired a person to come in. Basically, they came in, stirred things up, then left.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think I know the answer from at least a high level view. Your organization is different, but I how from people who in every industry, every organization, any topic, there are those people out there. They see grant money or whatever money over here. They'll do something to address the need to get the money, and that
Mm-hmm.
just happens.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
how is Undivided different?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things is we preceded 2020. So I think all of us
Mm-hmm.
would recognize that there was a racial reckoning in the country that happened in 2020. And there was a pain point for sure, as many of us watched on TV, George Floyd, being choked out. I think that was a moment for the country. And so there's no doubt that there was an increase in desire to do something in 2020. What we're experiencing is in many ways that window has closed. But what I would say makes Undivided different is our work preceded 2020. So we
Mm-hmm.
weren't a reaction to anything that happened in 2020. In fact, by the time we had gotten to 2020, we had already had 7,000 people go through Undivided. We had done it in multiple prisons. So we were already established in the work that we were doing. We'd already worked with some, organizations by then. So I think that differentiates us. And then the other thing is we would say, and this is true not just in diversity, equity, inclusion training. It's true in all kinds of training. It's true in all kinds of ways that there's a level of training that really is just about the head. Here are the facts. You need to know the facts. We'll
Mm-hmm.
test you to make sure you were exposed to the facts. And there's a need for that. And there are some things that need to hit at that level. We would say at Undivided, this work can't just be head work. That what's required to see deep change has to impact your head and then go to your gut and then move to your hands. And what we mean by that is,
Mm-hmm.
yes, there's some things we need to learn and know. There's common knowledge we need to have. Part of that is the history of how we got to where we are. But ultimately, what's going to move a person to something different isn't so much information, but it's relationship. And so we've really structured our experience to prioritize people getting to know each other. In fact, one of the things we do is quote unquote homework after the first week is you go and like have coffee or even a Zoom call with someone who's from a different lived experience than you, just to have the opportunity to get into each other's stories, because that's a connective thing that goes beyond information.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, we want to challenge people to take what you're learning and apply it. I would say that the transformation that Undivided brings just begins with the 7-week experience. That's just a seed. And that what people go on to build and create together, the things that are happening in Seattle and Chicago and Detroit and Cincinnati right now as alumni of Undivided are involved in work of justice in those communities, that's where the deep transformation happens, right? Because that's where you're working together and you're going through the ups and downs of the journey together. You're learning to celebrate together. You're learning to mourn together. You're learning to create and innovate together, to rest together, to play together, because there has to be joy in this work too. That's really where the deep change happens. So I would say those are a couple things that make Undivided different. Is just our tenure and how long we've been at this work, but then also our
Mm-hmm.
approach to what we do.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because I've heard you talk about these things not to me directly, but either on a YouTube
Mm-hmm.
video or from the stage or from different events in the past. And I that's what I really wanted to bring out is what your
Mm-hmm.
heart in this is. You're just not an organization that found a need and you're going to address it. No, this is your lived
Mm-hmm.
experience, and this
That's
is
right.
where your heart is at. And as it comes to the theme park industry, I mean, honestly, we talked about this earlier. It is organization where corporately speaking there may be hundreds of people, but by the time you get to the
Mm-hmm.
seasonal people that some have never worked together before, they haven't seen the person until the day they got on the job, and they're only going to be with them for 90 days. A lot
Right.
of stuff can be broken in 90 days,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
people that don't know how to work together and try to throw them together, it could be a lot of reactionary things. And as I was thinking about what kind of guests would be beneficial for, yeah, our listenership, our viewership is anywhere from people who love theme parks to aspiring people in college up to, I would say, middle management. Maybe
Okay.
there's a C-suite person here or there that might be listening. Hey, if you're listening, but that's kind of where we're at. Is those people that are effectively on the ground with what sort
Yeah.
of work that your organization does, and they
Mm-hmm.
deal with it every day. C-suite environment is a little bit insulated. They get the reports, but they're not on the ground with it. And
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
I honestly thought, well, this is something that, regardless of where we are in a political cycle, this is something that goes on every day. Political cycles happen every November, but this
Right.
is
Right.
October through September.
This is how
Yeah, I
we
said
live
that right.
together, right? This
Something
is
like
how we live and work
right.
together. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the organization that you have in the ministry, and the heart that you have for making things work in just reconciliation with people, and making things operate more effectively, is
Mm-hmm.
something I
Mm-hmm.
really want to flesh out. That because there is a difference between the work that you do and then just the off the shelf Google search
Mm-hmm.
people that are out there, and not all of them
Mm-hmm.
are like that. I don't mean to insinuate
No,
that,
no, there's a
but
lot
I
of,
do
I mean,
know.
there's a lot of good people doing good work in this space. And
Yeah,
sadly, I think sometimes that work gets devalued, um, because of the winds of lots of things, political
yeah.
perspectives, and, just the nature of the ebb and flow of our challenge of living together and doing life together in this country and in the world, which is sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would do want to mention again, I love that you said this, but, if you are working in a park, right, it is hard for me as a person who has done that many times to not just think exclusively about the guest experience, exclusively about what it's
Yeah.
like for,
Yeah.
you know, Johnny and his
Yeah.
mother who are coming
Yes.
in for their, trip in late April on the weekend after school. And like, it's impossible, literally impossible. Like, it is impossible to overstate the extent to which people working together better makes the guest experience better. Yeah, I mean, you
Yeah.
you said it with the way that the team can feel like they're bringing you into their team when you're on a ride. But
Mhm.
how about just like learning to to connect with your coworkers is the same as learning to connect
Absolutely.
with, the guests
Hmm.
when you're separating, or the same as learning to understand, someone who comes from a different background than you when you
Yes.
are taking their order at a restaurant.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
Walt Disney's, imagination for Disneyland in the early
Hmm.
50s was, I'm going to create a normal amusement park, except the people that work there are just going to be so nice, and they're going to be
Yes.
so helpful and all of this, and that's what's going to make the difference. That's what's going to
Hmm.
set our park apart. And turns out that worked. That is what
Yeah.
happened, really. And
Hmm.
it's just anything that helps you keep that, I think,
Yeah.
is remarkable. It is remarkable
Hmm.
work that is being
Hmm.
done by uh, Undivided, and, as you mentioned,
Hmm.
countless other institutions.
Yes.
I do have a question for you, though.
Okay.
You call yourself a roller coaster enthusiast. So,
Yes.
what's your favorite roller coaster? I must know.
Oh man. Oh, that's such a hard question. All right. So do I have to pick one, or can I give a couple different
No,
categories?
give a couple. Give a couple. That's
Yeah,
great.
All right.
yeah.
So a couple different categories. Couple
Chuck's
different
picks.
categories. First of all, I would say, and this is true, and you mentioned Kings Island, so I'll go back to Kings Island. I would say, and I haven't written everything, but I would say, for the money, I would pay the admission into Kings Island for
Okay.
one experience, and that is to ride the Beast, which is their wooden roller coaster of note, kind of been there forever. Ride the Beast in the front seat, in the
Okay.
front seat at night,
Yes.
last ride of the night.
Okay.
That experience is, I think, worth the price of admission. And the Beast is one of the longest from a time wise roller coaster too. I think it's like almost 4 minutes. It's a long ride. You're on that
Yeah.
thing for a long time. So I would say the Beast. I love the Beast.
Okay.
I would say another coaster that I think is just a pretty amazing ride, is, I love Hagrid's Magical Creatures. I,
Yes.
I just I
Yep.
just I don't know that there's anything like it that I've ridden. It's just incredible. So that
Yes.
would be another one on my list. I also, and I mean, man, Velocicoaster
Yep.
at Universal.
Yep.
also
Mhm.
amazing, just amazing. And I know I'm leaning toward this one park, and maybe it's because it's my latest experience. I think that's an incredible one. There's one that I have not ridden yet, and I hate to
Okay.
say this. How can I be a roller coaster enthusiast? How can I live in Ohio and I've never been to Cedar Point? I've never been to
What?
Cedar Point.
Oh
What?
wow.
I know. So I almost can't call myself an enthusiast if those things are true about me. However, I do want to
Yeah.
go, and the one that I absolutely just can't wait to ride is the what is it? The dragster, the roadster or
Top
dragster
Thrill
one.
Oh.
2 now, but yes.
Yes, top two. Yeah, I just can't wait to ride that one. So that's one that's on my bucket list that I have to figure out how to get to. So yeah, I do.
You
I
do.
love
Nice.
coasters for lots of different reasons, lots of different ways. But man, those are some high points.
Okay. All right. I love it. I love it.
So
Yes,
we'll put this under the segment of Chuck's picks.
there you go. Yes, yes.
So now you alluded to Universal. You were down there recently. Is that the most
Mhm,
recent park you've
mhm.
been to? Okay.
Was it? Yeah, yeah. Because we were down there at Christmas. Actually,
Oh,
New
nice.
Year's. We were
Okay.
down there at New Year's, which is so fun.
Oh.
We were there. Actually, we were there on New Year's Eve. We didn't plan on being there on New Year's Eve. That was not the plan. Because, like I said, my kids are 16, 13, and 11, so that wasn't the plan. And it was so funny because we got there. You know, we were there during the day, and so I don't know, at 11:30 or whatever, it was clearly changing over to the New Year's Eve crowd.
Mhm.
And my wife and I looked at each other and were like, okay, it's probably time for us to start heading toward the door. And it was based mainly on the wardrobe changes. It was like, okay, these are adults coming now. We're gonna take our kids home. But it was fun. We had a great time down there. You know, we all love different aspects of Universal, and so it's just so fun. I mean, I know we're not talking about water parks, but man, I think Volcano Bay is just wow, and
Yeah.
it's phenomenal. It's a
Yeah.
phenomenal water park.
Mhm.
We love it. We love it. So yeah, so we're big. We're big Universal folks. We've gone there probably 3 times in the last 8 years or something like that.
Oh wow.
So we do enjoy Universal. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was there
Very
at
cool.
Universal on New Year's Eve this year.
Were you?
Yeah.
We might have walked right by each other.
I left at about 7 because I had to work at like 5 the next morning. So
Oh yeah,
I was
yeah.
asleep. But maybe we did. Maybe we were on the same train
We
and we just
could have
didn't even
been. We
know.
could have been. Yes, we could have been. Oh
Clete was
man,
probably one of those people in the attire change that you're trying to get away from. You never know.
that's right. That's right. That's right. Well, it's funny you say that because one of the things now, of course, now we got to go back because Epic World is open. We've not been to Epic
Yes.
World, and so we're like, we got to go back. We got to go back. So, yeah.
We
So
do.
we, I don't know that next year will be our amusement park year, but maybe the year after that we'll try to make it back down there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool.
Well,
Cool.
Chuck, is there anything more you want to say about Undivided?
I think just an encouragement that yeah, the attractions industry is an industry about people. And as the demographics of America change, I'm sure that that's already being experienced in amusement parks, not only who comes as guests, but also the workforce. And, the organizations that are best poised to leverage the increasingly diverse workforce that is here and is coming is going to have a competitive advantage. And so I think that's what I would just encourage,
Absolutely.
folks that are in middle management who are thinking about hiring a summer staff team, or people who are, on the call who are thinking about opportunities they have in food services to even think about what you serve and how things are presented and delivered. Like there's a unique opportunity that someone's going to leverage and someone's going to win because they leverage it. Why not you? To your listeners, why not you? Why not your place of business? Why not your team? Why not be first? Why not win in this area that I think is an opportunity for winning? So yeah, that'd be my final words.
Cool.
Okay, Chuck, how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, easiest way is on the social channels. So I'm at Chuck Mingo, ChuckMingo, and that's on mainly X and Instagram. So you can reach me that way. And if you're ever in Cincinnati, come by Crossroads Church, where I'm one of the pastors, and we do great experiences there, and would love to say hello.
All right. Well, Chuck, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. and just hearing about all the stuff that the Undivided does, and hope to see great things, and maybe even someone from the park, a park, contact you and get you into this industry.
I would love that. I would love that. Thanks so much for having me on, Clete and David, and thanks for what you're doing. This is a great platform for folks in the industry to learn and grow. So thank you for letting me be a part of it.
Of course.
Thank you for being on.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of the Attractions Group podcast. We just had a great interview with Chuck Mingo. If there's anything you'd like to see us talk about in next week's episode, make sure to put it down in the comments below. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, and more importantly, visit a theme park this week. You know that's what we're doing it all for anyway. Maybe make your way up to Cedar Point as they start daily ops. So we'll see you back here on the Attractions Group podcast next Wednesday morning.